All right, salam alaikum, and welcome to another episode of the Mr. Islam Answers Back show. Got a good topic for you tonight. Interesting topic. Still continuing on from what we talked about from the last show, right? So we're going on in a series, as I had mentioned, right? We're bringing the videos in a series of offensive moves, as we talked about. We're going on the offense now. So, in so doing, each show basically, kind of latches on to the next one and to the next. So on the last show, we dealt with how, basically how Christianity and the church is basically, wa alaikum salam, Abdullah, welcome, right? The last show dealt with how, Christianity and the church is pandering, right? How it panders to the women and the beta males. So in continuing with that line, I touched on this subject here on how when you actually look at the teachings from the early church and also through the Bible, you see that really, marriage and intimacy and all that is actually discouraged, right? And we talked about how, you can see how this perhaps is where they got the idea. And I'm sure this is where they got it from, for the nuns and the priests to be celibate, right? There's actually scriptural evidence for that. And that really shows a sign that that's what, in other words, that's like the ultimate. If you want to be the best Christian, then that's the route that you want to take. And I'm going to show that. I'm going to prove that on today's show, right? I'm going to prove that on today's show. So let's get right into that. And as you see from the title, Paul teaches, and I'm also going to show you that there's actually some teachings from Jesus about this as well. So Paul teaches, there's also some references from Jesus as well, that basically makes this point or shows this idea that is actually better. If you want to be a good Christian, a really good Christian, it's better to be celibate. No marriage, no intimacy, none of that, right? And as I talked to you guys before, I explained that I've seen that over the years, when I started getting into the debates and things like that, that you would always notice how, every once in a while you'll notice how the Christians will kind of go hard in their attacks on Islam about those things, right? They're always going hard attacking about that Muslims can have 4 wives, or about that, the things about paradise, that you can be with your wife or your wives in paradise and things like that. And they always seem to have this negative thing about intimacy and how Islam, says that it's fine as long as it's in the context of marriage. But you'll notice that a lot of the Christians seem to have this, this hardcore attack about that. And I've talked about this over the years about why they fit, why you would see that they have that, because a lot of times, whether they know it consciously or subconsciously, a lot of times you'll see that, for them, that was part of the Christian tradition, which was to basically denounce intimacy. And I'm not talking about, we all agree, both religions agree that fornication, adultery is a sin or whatever. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about even within the proper context, the church and the church fathers and the Bible seem to shun that. Okay, so that's why I believe we've seen that the Christians all the time, they always attack these things as the carnal pleasures or whatever the case may be, because that's part of their Christian tradition, like I said, whether they know it or not. But of course, we know that in Islam teaches that there's nothing wrong with intimacy and romance within the context of the proper union between a man and a woman. It's nothing wrong with that. It's no shame in that. But for the Christians, you'll see that's a different story. Okay, regardless of what they're doing today, right? Regardless of what the modern Christian does today, we're going to show you again that this is why, as I've done these series of videos, that Christianity is, it's not for you, right? It's not for you. No matter who you are, whether you're a man or a woman. If you're a man, as I showed in the last show, it's going to emasculate you, effeminize you, And of course, even with this show, how it destroys your nature as a man, as a human being, right? It's destroying that. So you definitely don't want to be following a religion that's trying to destroy the natural part. And for a disclaimer, for anybody who tries to make an argument, yes, there are verses that says that, yeah, because of temptation you can get married, but again, the point is that it's telling you to be the better Christian. The better Christian is the one, and I'm going to show all evidence with the better Christian is the one who doesn't engage in marriage. So yeah, it says, yeah, you can do that, but if you do that, you're basically considered a lower Christian, right? If you want to be the best Christian you can be, then I'm going to show you that within the scripture and in the church teachings, that they say if you want to be the better Christian, it's better to completely be celibate, right? And I'm going to prove everything I'm saying. I always bring the evidence anyway, so you know how Islam does this thing. Right? But basically that's what it shows you, that yes, it does say, okay, if you can't, and notice how it puts it in the negative, if you can't control yourself, then yeah, go on ahead and get married. So basically you're taking the lower route, right? If you go on ahead and get married, that shows that you're taking the lower route. If you want to be the best Christian you can be, then it's better to stay away from marriage. Better to stay away from intimacy if you want to be a higher level Christian. So you get me? So yeah, so I don't want anybody to come and say, oh, look, he's misrepresenting. It says you can get married. Yeah, it says you can do that. But taking that is the lower route. If you do that, you're a lower level Christian. Whereas if you want to be a higher level Christian, you want to be closer to a more righteous Christian, then it's better to go be up here and not get married, not have intimacy, right? And we're going to break that down and prove that. All right, so let's get into it. Wa alaikum salam. I am Mu'min. Welcome. Oh, we having some buffering problems here. Can you guys see me clear? It looks like on my screen it has. Let me see. Oh, before I go any further, don't forget. Right? Don't forget to like the video. Right? Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to, if you're not a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe. As we always say, if you appreciate the information that we're bringing you and you want to support our platform and help us expand, then don't forget to support us on the Patreon, join our Patreon, or if you just want to make, help us out anytime, we have the Cash App and other forms of ways you can support us by. You can get our book. There's a number of options you can use to support and help our platform from there. Okay, you can see me good. Appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started with what the church. Let me see. Well, you know what? Let's start with the scripture first. Let's start with the scriptures first, and then we'll show you what the church has to say about these things. Okay, so here we go. Let's start here. Here is from the Bible. These are the writings of Paul, right? And I'm going to show you where Jesus also seems to imply or basically show the same thing, that it's better not to get married. If you want to be a really good Christian, it's better to just stay alone. No intimacy, no romance, no sex, just don't even involve yourself. Just stay celibate, stay single, right? If you want to be a top Christian or follower of Jesus, right? So let's take a look here. Here is 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1. Now, you'll see here, I'm showing you the different translations on the screen. And what we see is that if you're looking on the screen, some have said that the statement, as you see it there, in parentheses, in quotation marks, is because people were writing to Paul, and that's their saying that is it good for a man to not have sexual relations with a woman. So some say he's just repeating the question, and others say that that he's saying that himself. But either way, he's still in agreement with the statement, right? So whether you take it that this was a letter that was written to him and he's restating what they said, which is it good for a man? In other words, they put it like it's a question. It is good for a man not to have, relations with a woman, right? So some say that that was the statement that was put to him, and he's answering it, but he answers either way. In other words, my point is that either way, he answers that yes, it is better to not, have relations with a woman. And of course, he means even in the lawful context. He's not just saying, oh, it's better to, not to have fornication. It's better not to fornicate. We got that's already understood. But he's saying it's better not to have relations with a woman at all. Even in the lawful union of marriage, it's better not to get married at all. Basically, what he's saying. Okay. So as I said, some said that he was just restating the statement that was written to him, and others say he is stating that to them. So in other words, they asked him the question, and then he's writing them to say, yes, it is better. So either way, he agrees that it's better not to be, to not get married, to not have relations with a woman, sexual, etc. Right? So as he says here, as you see in the translations here. So now regarding the question you asked in the letter, yes, it is good to abstain from sexual relations. Different translations put it in different ways, but the point, as you can see, is still there, that it's better to just abstain. And again, this is where we see the teachings of the priest and the nuns who take this position. So in other words, the priest and the nuns are trying to be a higher level, right? They're trying to be a higher level Christian by abstaining completely. And of course, the Protestants, they don't have that teaching, right? They don't have the nuns and the priest. But again, those verses are still there. So even the Protestant Christian is still being taught that it's better to abstain. Right? It's better to abstain. It's better not to get married. It's better to stay single, stay celibate. Don't involve yourself in any intimacy or anything. All right. The next verse here, to further show the point, right? To further show the point. 1 Corinthians same chapter 7, verse 40. So he says, but in my opinion, it would be better for her to. Some of the translation put to stay as she is, and I think that I too have the Spirit of God. Others translate it more clearly, because in the context he's speaking, when he says to stay as she is, he means to stay single, just stay single if your husband dies. So as you can see, look over here, right? Can you guys see where my cursor is at? Here you see right here, verse 39. Here's the context. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes, as long as he belongs to the Lord. In my judgment, however, she is happier if she remains as she is. And I think that I too have the Spirit of the Lord. So in other words, he's saying, look, if your husband dies, to me, you can remarry, but look, it's better. Remember what I said, guys. It's better that you don't stay single. It's better that you just stay single. Right? No intimacy. Right? No intimacy. Don't get married. It's better to stay single. Right? So this is what he's teaching. And like I said, this attaches to the series of videos that I've been showing you. They get you with the empty emotionalism. It's pandering to women and beta males, and it's killing the male spirit. It's killing, it's effeminizing the men. It's going against your nature as a human being, whether you're male or female. This right here is going against your nature as male or female. Right? Why? At least in Islam is recognizing that we all have that, right? That it's normal as a man or woman to have that desire, right? It just tells you to put it in the right context, right? It just tells you to put it in the right context. It's not telling you to kill it. It's not telling you to completely kill that, because you can't. You cannot completely kill that desire, which is why we hear the stories of the priest molesting the boys, or, the nuns. There's even stories of nuns who have been molested and things like this. Or, these stories are there because you weren't made to do that. You were made to procreate. You were made to have that desire. Allah created those hormones in you, and you have the feeling towards each other, right? For intimacy, for romance. It's normal to have that. The only difference is Islam says put it in the proper context, right? You're not supposed to be out there running around and, fornicating and committing adultery, whatever. You put it in its proper context, but it's normal, it's natural. It just says put it in the proper context. Whereas here, Christianity, as you can see, the Bible is teaching you, no, it's better to try to kill it. It's better to just stay single. That's the best. That's the better Christian. But of course, as I said, that goes against the way you were created. You weren't created to be that way. You see, you weren't created to be that way. So here is this religion that's going against human nature. Right? It's going against human nature. It's telling you it's better. Again, I agree. Yeah, it allows you. It says, yeah, you can. But again, everybody's desire, right, is to be the best that you can be when you ask something, right? As a Muslim, you want to be the best Muslim, or at least try to be the best Muslims that you can be. Correct? Right? No, you don't really want to be the average, the mediocre, the low level, the lowest level of a Muslim. You want to try to be as best a Muslim as you can, right? You play a sport. You want to try to play as best as you can. You don't want to be the mediocre player. You want to try to do as best as you can. As a Christian, of course, you want to try to be the best Christian you can be. Well, here it's telling you the best Christian to be is the one that doesn't involve themselves in intimacy, in sexual relations. And again, when I keep saying, I want everybody, when I say sexual relations, I mean in a proper union. I'm not talking about fornication or adultery. Meaning when I say in this context, don't involve yourselves in sexual relations, it means in the lawful sexual relation. They're telling you don't involve yourself in that. It's better to be celibate. That's the best. That's the higher level Christian, right? That's when you've achieved, like in Islam, we have the different levels of a Muslim, right? You have the lowest level, the movement, the Muslim, right? The believer and the muhsin, right? The one who has achieved the level of good doer, the righteous one. You have the different levels, right? Well, the Christian, their book is telling them that if you want to be the better Christian, it's better not to get married. So yes, you can get married, but the ones who do that, you're looked upon as you're a lower level. That's considered like you can't control yourself. So yeah, okay, you're a Christian, but you're a lower level. You can't control yourself, so you got to get married so you can handle that. If you want to be a top level Christian, the ones that can control themselves, have discipline for the Lord, they don't get married. They don't involve themselves with sexual relations with their wife. And even then it would show, I'm going to show you too. All right, take it. And then even then, it even shows you then that if you are going to go that route, that, you know, it's only in the context of procreation, and that's it. Right? It's only in the context of procreation. So if you're gonna go the route, so you know, again, so like if you're gonna take that route and get married, then it's like, okay, the intimacy is only for procreation. That's it. It should only be for that reason. So even you know what I mean? So it's just telling you like, yo, look, it's not good. And again, like I said, this is why, for my opinion, that I've seen over the years that I've been involved in debating, whether it be, you know, online or through debates or whatever, that the Christian seems, that's why they attack the idea of virgins in paradise. This is why they attack the idea of in Islam allowing to have more than one wives, even though men in their Bible had it. But, you know, when they try to attack Islam or the prophet or whatever, peace be upon them, they talk about the number of wives, and Islam says you'll be with your wives in paradise, or virgins in paradise. They're always attacking that. So why is that? Because it's in their tradition to shun intimacy. It's in their tradition to shun intimacy, to shun the romance, to shun, you know, to not appreciate, to actually get away from marriage and intimacy and sexual relations and all that stuff like that. So I believe this is why they subconsciously are so trying always stringently to attack Islam on some of those things, because it's part of their tradition. Again, whether they know it or not. So whether they're doing it consciously or subconsciously, this is why they always have an issue with that. Because in their teachings is telling them that it's better to not be married. It's better not to have intimacy, which again goes against human nature. That's the way you were created. Again, but Islam says, yes, go have it, enjoy it, but in its proper context. So as you see here, here's what you see, right? Paul is saying, look, man, look, if the husband dies, yeah, she can marry if she wants to, but you know what? However, he says it's better. It's better. But in my opinion, it would be better for her to stay single. So you hear that, Christian ladies? It's better for you to stay single. Don't get married. Become a nun, basically. I guess become a nun. Right? Even if you're a Protestant, just become a nun. It's better. Your master, one of your master teachers is telling you, right? You guys love Paul. He's telling you that it's better to stay single. See? That's your teachings right there. Okay? Let's take a look at another one. First Corinthians chapter 7, verse 26, to show you that this is a constant message. This is a constant this idea is constantly said a lot. Okay. Now this is all Paul here, right? I'm going to show you where Jesus talks about it as well. But this is all Paul. So let's take a look at First Corinthians 7, 26. He says, I suppose, therefore, that it is good for the present distress. Better, I think, then that it is good because of the impending distress, that it is good for a person to be so, i.e., to continue in the state in which he is, married or unmarried, as the case may be. Okay. So once again, he's still reiterating that point. That it's better to stay that way. If you're single, stay single. Don't get married. It's better. It's better to just stay that way. Right? And I believe I had got this one because I looked at the the commentary right here. Yes, see? Here it is right here. See that? Matthew Henry's concise commentary. Considering the distress of those times, the unmarried state was best. Okay? So my understanding is correct. The unmarried state was best. Yeah, again, they say, yeah, of course he says you can do it, you can get married, but again, what's best? The unmarried state is best. So like I said, notwithstanding, the apostle does not condemn marriage, right? He doesn't condemn it, but still, what's best? Right? It's better to not get married. So he's not putting it down, he's not condemning it, but again, what's best? And again, like I said, we would have to assume that if a Christian, if you want to try to achieve the best in your religion, you want to be closer to God, you want to be amongst the best Christians, then wouldn't you want to do that which is best? Right? Like, who wants to do that which is best? Right? You go to the store and you want to get a laundry detergent. And they got the regular one, and then they got, look, this one has the extra strength power stain lifter bleach, you know what I mean, right? So, okay, the regular one is the regular one, but this one has the extra strength in it. This one has the extra strength. It has the stain lifters in it. It has the bleach, and it makes the whites whiter and the brights brighter and all that stuff like that. You want to get the better one, right? You don't want to say, well, the regular one doesn't do it. I want to get the better one. Well, how much so in your belief system, right? How much so in your belief system? Okay. So again, right, he's not condemning it, but it's best. The unmarried state was best. The unmarried state was best, as you see here. All right. So let's see. Yeah, so again, here, this right here, you guys see with my cursor, it is good for a man to be so. The emphasis here is on the word so, hautos, it is best for a man to conduct in the following manner. The word so referring to the advice which follows. I advise that he conduct in the following manner, to wit. Most commentators suppose that it means as he is, that is, unmarried. But the interpretation proposed above best suits the connection. The advice given is in the following verses. All right. So yeah, pretty much that's that's the understanding. There, it's better to be in that state. It's better to be unmarried. Okay. Better to be unmarried. All right. Better to be unmarried. Let's take a look at another one. First Corinthians chapter 7. Notice a lot of these are all in chapter 7, as you can see in different parts of chapter 7. So here, are you pledged to a woman? Do not seek to be released. Are you free from such a commitment? Do not look for a wife. Okay. See? So let's look at the context here over here, right? Because of the present crisis, I think it is good for a man to remain as he is, i.e. unmarried, as we already showed, right? And are you committed to a wife? Do not seek to be released. Are you free of a commitment? Do not look for a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. But those who marry will face troubles in this life. And I want to spare you of this. So all of these different things, as I showed from the beginning, it's better to be unmarried. That's the more righteous way. That's the more righteous way. And here, as I said, we see that Jesus, the statements that they allege that Jesus say, the words that they attribute to Jesus seem to pretty much say the same thing. So here Jesus is talking to his disciples. He gives them a little, parable or story or something of this sort. And then what do they understand from it here in Matthew 19:10? It says, the disciples said to him, if this is the situation. Oh, yeah, he's talking to them about marriage. Look at verse 9 over here, right? It says, now I tell you, that whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another woman commits adultery. His disciples said to him, if this is the situation between a husband and wife, it is better not to marry. So now Jesus agrees that they're right, but like he says here, he says, not everyone can accept his word. He replied, but only those to whom it has been given. Okay, so he's saying, yeah, you're right. It is better not to marry. Jesus, the words that they attribute to Jesus. I repeat, the words that they attribute to Jesus says that, yes, the disciples are correct in what they said. It is better not to marry. Right? It is better not to marry. But, he's saying, yeah, but a lot of people can't handle this. Right? A lot of people can't handle that. Right? Jesus replied, not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. And then he goes on to explain how, yes, it's better to be this way. It's better to take the unmarried position. Look at verse 12. Look at verse 12. It says, for there are eunuchs, right? Who were born that way, meaning, the eunuchs were the people who had the men who had no male, no male genitalia, or they had it cut off, right? So here he says, for there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, right? Who had it, there used to be a practice, in slavery in those days, and in that region where they would cut off the male, the male slave's member, his private part, right? So they were made eunuchs that way. So Jesus says some people were born that way and some were made that way by others. And he says, and there are those who choose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom. The one who can accept this should accept it. So there, bam. Okay. So anybody claiming misrepresentation? No, sir, or no, ma'am. As you can see here, even your scriptures allege that Jesus says, yes, this is the better way to be. Now, he admits, right? He says everyone can't accept this. But again, notice how this is still put forward as the better way to be for a so-called Christian. It's better to be this way. They're accepting that, yeah, everybody can't accept it. So, yeah, you can still be a Christian and still get married and all that and have sex. But that's not the optimal Christian. You're not the better Christian if you do that. You can do it, sure. It's not a sin, nothing wrong with it. But that's not the best way to be as a Christian. If you want to be the better Christian, if you want to be the best or amongst the top Christians, it's better to be this way, unmarried, no sex, no sexual relations, no marriage. As the words attributed to Jesus say here, become a eunuch by choice for the kingdom of God, for the sake of the kingdom, become a eunuch by choice. That means, no relations. The one who can accept that, you should accept that. That's the way to be the better Christian, the top Christian, the optimal Christian. Is better to be that way. So again, I repeat, you can get married. It's nothing wrong with it. But again, if you do that, you're not at your full potential as a Christian, basically. So you can do that, yeah, but it's all right. But you're like a low level. You're a low level Christian, because it's basically seen as you can't control yourself. See, You can't. That's what. And again, it's like a slight. Like, yeah, you can get married, but that just shows you can't control yourself. So yeah, okay, you're a follower. Yeah, you're a Christian, but you can't control yourself. You're not at the top level. You're not at the higher level. But if you want to be at the higher level, then do like the disciples said. Oh, well then, hey, it's better not to get married, Jesus. And he replies, yeah, you're right. Some people were born like eunuchs. Some people were made eunuchs. And then others choose to live like eunuch, meaning they choose to live as if their genitalia is not there, i.e., like it's gone. So you're not going to engage in intimate relations, for the sake of the kingdom of God, right? Or the sake of the kingdom. And he says, the one who can accept this, you should accept that. Christians, Protestants, Catholic, Jehovah's Witness, whatever. Live like this. Shun marriage. If you want to be amongst the best, again, you can do it. You can get married, but if you want to be amongst the top members of the followers of Christ, then it's better to be this way. No marriage, no intimacy. Live like a eunuch. Live like a eunuch, meaning as if you don't have a sexual organ, and then you will be amongst the better Christians. Okay, so very clear. So now let's take a look. Let's take a look at what the church has to say about this. All right, here's an article here from the website Preaching Today, and it talks about the early church's take on sex. Before I go to that, let me take a quick look at the room, the live stream. Everybody in here? Good. Alhamdulillah, we got people in. Some more people have joined the room. Let's see. We got Muzzy Buzz. All right, Muzzy Buzz, welcome. MI5 Dunya, welcome. Alaikum salam. Patience, wa alaikum salam. Okay, alhamdulillah, welcome to the live stream. Muslim Matters, welcome, alhamdulillah. We got Jason Batson, wa alaikum salam, welcome. All right, alhamdulillah. Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's continue. Wa alaikum salam, Patience. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you guys tuning in. All right. So let's go back. So let's continue. Let us continue. Oh, what's this, brother? Farid the Goat. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, share the stream. No problem. All right, so let's get back to it. Let's get back to the lesson here. All right, let's get back to the lesson. So, as I said, we're here on this site, Preaching Today, the early church's take on sex. So here they say, not a single church father can be found who did not assume that Christians should remain chaste before marriage. No problem with that, right? Because Islam says the same thing. No problem with that, right? In the 2nd century, the Roman governor Pliny questioned some ex-Christians who reported that Christians met before dawn for a secret ritual that included an oath to refrain from moral no-nos, including sexual sins. The ritual so described is generally considered to have been baptism, which, as Justin Martyr described a few years later, did require new Christians to make this kind of moral promise. Again, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Right? Nothing wrong with that. Turning to such early Christian manuals as the Didache, Clement of Alexandria's Pedagogos, I hope I said that properly, or the many disciplinary writings of Tertullian, we find sexual sins getting a lot of attention. Fornication and adultery are condemned in the strongest terms. No problem with that. Same thing in Islam. And discussions keep cropping up about whether newly baptized Christians should be required or at least urged to remain celibate, and about whether sex in marriage should only be for the purpose of conceiving children. So as I told you, remember what I told you earlier. So they even say that, okay, if you're going to get married, then the intimate relation should only be for the making of children. not for pleasure, not because you just want to enjoy the pleasure of being with your spouse. If you're going to engage in that, it only should be for children. And of course, see, once again, Islam is like, no, Islam says it's lawful, no matter what the purpose. As long as it's lawful, as long as it's between, in the proper context of husband and wife. It can be, if you just for pleasure between the husband and wife, if you want to have children, you know what I mean? It's not relegated to just, okay, only when you're going to have, only when you want to have a child, only when you want to have a child, you can only be intimate. You see? So as you can see, this is more evidence that Christianity is just not, it's not the true religion. It's not the true way to follow, because it's going against your nature as a human being. It goes against the nature of God, that we've shown before. And it also goes against your nature as a human being. It wants you to do something that you weren't created to do. You were not created to be celibate for your entire life. Right? How foolish. Then why does God have the woman with the egg? Why does he have her have the ovum that is given all the time, every month, right? Why does he have her ovulate every month? If the intention, if the better righteous person is to not have intimacy at all? Why does he have the man creating the sperm if that's meant, if it's useless, if it's really meant for you not to do, you know what I mean? Like, it's a waste, right? Why does he give us those hormones that make you feel the desire? Right? And he put it in the man and the woman. He put those hormones. He put the hormone. Allah put those hormones in us that makes you feel the urge for intimacy. Right? Again, Islam just says in its proper context. There's nothing wrong with it in its proper context. But Christianity is like, no. If you want to be the better righteous person, stay away from it completely. If you can't control yourself, okay, get married. But even in marriage, don't do it for pleasure. Only when you want to, only for conceiving a child. So it says, reading these discussions, I'm right here, reading these discussions, you get the sense that the sky hung low for these people. That is, heaven was a nearby, almost tangible reality. Where many, in other words, what they're saying, because I before I did this show, I read up on this. Basically, what he's saying here, if you don't get it, is that he's saying that, this is basically an excuse for this teaching. The excuse that they gave is that the Christians at that time thought that the world was going to end any day. Right? So therefore, they're trying to make an excuse to say like, oh, well, the Christians at that time thought that it was going to end at any time. So therefore, that's why they said, you might as well refrain from intimacy, refrain from marriage and sex and all that, because, things are going to end. But the problem with that is that, as we already showed you, this originated from Paul. Paul is supposedly has, he has the revelation from God, right? He's inspired. So shouldn't he know that you got time? Shouldn't he know that you have time? Right? In this context, right? Shouldn't he have known to say, well, you guys got time, so go on ahead. It's okay. Get married. You're a good Christian whether you get married or not. You can be a good righteous Christian, top Christian, whether you're married or not. Instead, they're telling you the better one is the one that doesn't get married. The better one is the one that doesn't engage in sexual relations, right? Lawfully, right? The better one is the one who doesn't do that. So I don't really, that's what they want to put as their excuse, but I don't really buy that. I don't really buy that excuse. You know what I mean? I really don't buy that excuse. But nonetheless, that's what they claim is why that's being taught. But as you can see from the one I gave from where Jesus talks in Matthew, it doesn't appear that he didn't seem to put any condition that, well, I'm only saying this because I'm telling you to be like a eunuch because, things are about to end. The world is about to end soon. He doesn't seem to put that condition there. So it's apparent to me that was the teaching of an ultimate Christian. Not because the world was getting ready to end anytime soon, or the end of days was coming, or the day of judgment was coming around the corner. No, he doesn't seem to put that there. He's just saying like this is the better way to live. Right? Okay, but let's continue on. So they say that is, heaven was a nearby, almost tangible reality where many natural physical functions would drop away into insignificance. No one would be married, be born, or die. In a church vividly aware that this was the place of which they were truly citizens, it was not a stretch to say that even God's command in Genesis to be fruitful and multiply was now suspended. at least for those carrying the good news of Christ's gospel to a world next door to death. Such messengers of heaven saw themselves as strangers and sojourners in a transitory, sin-besotted physical world. The anticipation of heaven was so powerful that it motivated some to begin living as the angels do, renouncing such physical pleasures as sexual intercourse. The heavenly mindedness may help account for the fact that chastity, or virginity as the early Christians often called it, became a hallmark of spiritual greatness among the Christians. Neither the Jews nor the pagans had ever much linked spiritual perfection with sexual abstination. So once again, this is like I said, so this proves my point. This is like I told you. This is why you may have seen, or you will see every so often that Christians will attack that thing in Islam. They attack the thing about, about the 4 wives. They attack the thing about that you can be with your wife or wives in paradise, and that intimacy can still the pleasure of intimacy can still go on in paradise. To them, that's like, oh, that's low and that's no good. And well, here's why Christians think that way. This is why they think that way, because in their tradition teaches them that it's better to be celibate, it's better to be single, it's better to be unmarried, it's better to abstain from sexual relations, even if it's lawful, it's better to abstain. So that's why in their minds, when Islam says you can have 4 wives and, you be with your wife in paradise or your wives in paradise, and you can still enjoy the pleasure of it. I mean, like, why not, right? It's pleasurable here. Why not be pleasurable in paradise? Well, to them, but here's why, because they have this unnatural teaching that is better if you want to be righteous, if you want to be amongst the higher righteous, it's better to not engage in that. Even if it's lawful, it's better not to engage in that. But again, I'm telling you guys that this is why Islam is the way to go. Because Islam, it has, again, as I talk, it has that balance. It has the balance of, of the spirituality and at the same time the laws. It's not too hard on the laws, nor does it take you all the way to putting your heads in the cloud and being completely spiritual. It has a balance. Islam says it's okay to laugh and have fun sometimes, but at the same time, you got to be serious and pray and deal with the world, right? Right? The Prophet said he would pray, like I told you in the last show. The Prophet said they would when he had those men who said they were going to try to achieve some high level of righteousness. One said, I'm just going to spend my whole time praying. One said, I'm not going to get married. One said, I'm going to castrate. And the Prophet had to bring them back to a balance. He said, look, I'm the best amongst you, but I pray sometimes. And then I have fun sometimes. You know what I mean? I also get married. So, and I'm the best amongst you. So this is the way you want to follow the balanced lifestyle. And that's what the Quran says. We are the middle nation. We are the balanced nation. You see? So this is why Islam is such a beautiful way of life. The deen of Islam is a beautiful way. You see? Because it's not trying to make you an extremist, even though, right, we know that's in the media, but Islam is really not the extremist way. Either side. It's the balanced way. It's the balanced way. Right? Allah understands that, you have to take some time to work. You need to laugh. You need to have some fun. You need to have recreation. But you also should pray. You also should try to live righteously, etc. You should, get married. Enjoy your spouse. Enjoy each other. And at the same time, yes, you still get up to pray. You still take time to pray. You still take time to give charity. But it's all there. It's beautiful to have children. It's beautiful to enjoy each other if you're not having children. Love each other. Be intimate. Be romantic. And matter of fact, look for that. That's going to be a show. Again, like I told you, these shows are just making branches to the next show. Inshallah, I got a future show about that. About the Prophet giving advice on romance. Yeah, we got a good show about that. So you're not going to want to miss that one. Of course, it's going to be tasteful and respectful and all that. But again, that's part of Islam, right? We're not ashamed of that. We're not ashamed of that. You can't shame us on that because it's natural. It's normal. And Islam, of course, talks about that in its proper context. So you can't shame us about that kind of stuff. But again, I want you brothers and sisters to understand, and maybe some of you Christians to understand why you think like that. Why you have a problem with a man having 4 wives? Why you have a problem with a man or a woman being in paradise with her husband and still be able to enjoy the romance with each other in paradise? Why you have a problem with that? Because that's the teachings that your tradition created, which is unnatural. That's not natural. You weren't created to be that. If that's the case, then we would have been created like your Jesus told you. We would have been created without it. We would have all been eunuchs. We would have all been created without it. The man or woman, nothing would be there. The hormones wouldn't be there. You wouldn't be ovulating and producing your eggs on a term basis. The man wouldn't be producing sperm, right? But it's there for a reason, in its proper context. Of course, I repeat. Okay. So let's continue on to get more insight into the early church and what their thoughts were about sex, right? So again, as it says here, as I read here, it says, neither the Jews nor the pagans had ever much linked spiritual perfection. So you hear the words, right? Spiritual perfection is what? With sexual abstination. So again, if you want to achieve what did I just say? Didn't I say that? If you want to achieve the better level of being a Christian, it is through sexual abstination. You see this? That's the higher level Christian. So again, I repeat, yes, you can get married, Christians. You can be intimate, but you're not achieving the spiritual perfection level if you do that. And as I said, I would assume that most Christians, and again, with any religion, that you want to try to achieve, at least reach for the higher level, even if you can't get it, but you want to try to at least go for the higher level, right? Well, according to the Christian, it's linked to spiritual perfection is linked to sexual abstention, right? Meaning staying away from it. That's spiritual perfection, according to them. So he says another, but probably less influential reason virginity became the badge of honor for many early Christians was that some of their Roman persecutors, in their attempts to give Christianity a bad name, accused the Christians of engaging in secret sex rituals in their meetings. As the 2nd century defender of the faith, Justin Martyr, wrote, he says, either we do not marry except to rare children. There goes again, right? So the church fathers, the church thinkers, the scholars, the leaders, what are they telling you? So yeah, again, if you do marry and you do be intimate, it's only for rearing children, not to enjoy it. Don't enjoy it. Don't engage with intimacy because you want to enjoy your husband or enjoy your wife. No, only to rear children. Or we refuse to marry and we exercise complete self-control. So again, see, so if you don't marry, you're better because you are showing self-control. Further, to convince you that we do not have a secret right of licentious sexual intercourse, one of us sent to Felix, the governor of Alexandria, asking him to permit a surgeon to take away the Christian's testicles. As I said, see? For the surgeons there said they were forbidden to do this without the permission of the governor. When Felix was not at all willing to sign this permission, the youth remained by himself and found his own and his associates' conscience sufficient. So he did like Jesus said. He became a voluntary eunuch and just abstained from any intimacy, any relations, any marriage at all. All right. It says, in fact, look here. In fact, the brilliant exegete Origen did in fact have himself castrated. Wow. In fact, the brilliant exegete Origen, he did have himself castrated. He wrote, God has allowed us to marry wives because not everyone is, there we go. Look, and here's the point. Because not everyone is capable of the superior condition, which is to be absolutely pure, against Celsus 8:55. So once again, you see that? I'm not making it up. Your church fathers, your church thinkers, your church, what are they telling you? The superior way, the spiritual perfection is sexual abstention. The superior condition is to be absolutely pure, is to stay away from wives. So look how he puts you down. Not everyone is capable of the superior condition. You see that? So again, you Christians who do engage, who do get married, who do engage with your spouse, again, you're not wrong, but you're not at the superior level. You haven't achieved the superior condition according to your church fathers here, your church thinkers of the past, your scholars, etc. According to them, you're doing that's fine, but you're not at a higher level. In fact, as it says, because you can't control yourself. See, not everyone is capable of the superior condition. You can't control yourselves. You're a low level Christian. See, you're a low level believer. You're not at the higher level. You're not able to achieve the superior condition. Notice the words. Notice those are his words. And notice the other paragraph we read earlier where they said that the spiritual perfection is linked with what? Sexual abstention. Remember, Paul said it's better to be unmarried. It's better to not have sexual relations. It's better that a man not be married. It's better that a woman, if her husband dies, or it's better that she doesn't remarry. She can do it, but it's better. Notice, it's better. It's best. So I've shown you point after point that what are they telling you? That the better way to be, the best position, the superior condition, the level of perfection is not to marry, not to engage in any relations. And again, of course, I repeat, I'm talking about even in the lawful context, it's better not to do it. It's better not to do it. Okay, it's better not to do it. Let's go a little further. Let's read some more. It says here, the early church father Clement of Alexandria was one of many who struggled against these Gnostics. He attacked a book by the Gnostic teacher Julius Cassianus concerning self-control or concerning eunuchery. So even the other Christian groups may have taken it to an extreme, right? May have taken it to an extreme. Right. So even the Gnostics took it, it seems like the Gnostics seem to take it to extreme. So this Gnostic wrote, let no one say that since we have these parts, so that the female body is arranged this way and the male that way, that the one to receive, the other to implant, sexual intercourse is allowed by God. So in other words, he's saying, let nobody say that just because the female body is like that and the male part of the body is like this. Let nobody say that this means that sexual intercourse is allowed by God. That's wow, amazing, right? But again, that's how they were thinking. Again, we admit the Gnostics were considered heretics and deviant. All right, so I'm not using this as a justification, but as I showed you, even the non-Gnostics agreed that some level of celibacy or staying away from marriage was better. So maybe the Gnostics took it too far and was like, you know what? No, don't even get married at all. Whereas the other church Christians said, okay, yeah, it's better to be this way. You can get married, but it's better not to do it. So I'm not saying that the Gnostics are giving a legitimate position, but notice this is still something. Notice the common denominator is that whether they go to the extreme with it or whether they say, well, okay, you can get married. Notice they still agree that the better way is to not engage. Don't get married. Don't have intimacy with your wife or don't get married at all. So that way you stay away from it completely. Don't get married and stay away from it completely. Notice that's still the common denominator, right? So it goes on to say, for if this equipment was from the God toward whom we hasten, he would not have said that eunuchs are blessed. And again, I guess he's referring to what he must be referring to that paragraph from Jesus, right? I'm assuming where Jesus said that the eunuchs, right? They're the ones who choose to be a eunuch by choice. They do this for the sake of the kingdom, right? He would not have said that eunuchs are blessed. He concluded that Jesus had come to reform us and free us from error and from the intercourse of these appended and shameful parts. Such teachers, said Clement, with words fair sounding, though self-control fair sounding through self-control, commit sacrilege against both the creation and the holy creator. So basically, like I said, he's just against the idea of the extremeness of the Gnostics. He's not against the idea fully, but just that they took it to the extreme, right? That they were just too extreme for it, So here it goes on. Clement and the other fathers followed the Apostle Paul in counseling against such extreme sexual self-denial. Paul was well aware of the strong pull of human sexual desire and its tendency to lead fallible humans into immorality. In his first letter to the Corinthians, which is what we read earlier, he responded to their slogan, "It is good for a man not to marry," by insisting that though this might be good for those with the gift of celibacy, like himself. So again, Paul himself took that position. So again, do you see what we're showing? That again, if you want to be like, basically it would be like the Muslims trying to be like some of the Sahaba, right? Right? You want to be like the Prophet, or you want to try to be like some of the Sahabas, right? So Paul is like, although he wasn't a direct companion of Jesus because he never met Jesus, but of course the Christians take him as someone they can learn from, someone that they can use as an example. So he himself took the position of what? Of celibacy. You see? So like it says here, by insisting that though this might be good for those with the gift of celibacy, like himself, heroic chastity might easily provide opportunity for the devil to the unmarried and the widows, he said. If they cannot, look again, notice how it's like a negative. If they cannot control themselves, they should marry. So you see how that's kind of like a put down. It's like saying, well, see, if you got to get married, you can't control yourself. See, so if you can't do it, all right. If you can't control yourself, all right, go ahead and get married. And again, like I said, if you want to be the best, I would be like, right? I would be like, well, I want to try to be the best. So wouldn't you say, well, I'm going to try to control myself. I want to be close to the Lord, right? I want to be like Paul. I want to be like, what Jesus said, allegedly, right? So wouldn't you want to try to strive for that? Because you're being put down. If you got to get married, that's like a put down. That's like saying, all right, you can't control yourself. All right, go ahead and get married then. All right, go ahead and get married. You can't control yourself. Okay, we'll accept you still. But you want to be the best, or you want to strive for the best. You want to be like Paul, right? He took celibacy. He took a vow of celibacy, which is the best way. Don't you want to do that, Christians? Don't you want to be like your teacher? Huh? Yeah. Let's continue on. This is this is those those cliff notes, right? This is a cliff notes. And this is again another church father, St. Augustine's Confessions. So there's a part where it talks about again what the early church said about sex. So again, so you see I'm not making this up. So here's the cursor. Here's where I'm at. It says the attitude of the early church towards sexuality of any kind was extremely negative. So again, this is why they are negative. Christians are negative about Islam when it comes to this. This is why they're negative about 4 wives. This is why they're negative about, being, you can be that, it says that we will still be intimate in paradise, right? This is why they're negative about that, because that's their tradition. I guess sex was like a necessary evil, basically. It was like a necessary evil for them. See? It was like a necessary evil. But if you want to be better, stay away from it. Stay away from it. Which, of course, that's not the way humans were created. So again, it says the attitude of the early church towards sexuality of any kind was extremely negative. And Augustine reflects this attitude as he quotes advice against sex and marriage from the letters of the Apostle Paul. You see, this is where they get it from. They didn't make it up themselves. That's why I started with Paul. You see, remember how I started the show? I started off with some verses from Paul's writings. So I'm right. My understanding is correct. And clearly the church fathers said the same thing. And they based this tradition off of Paul's teachings, right? They based it off of Paul's teachings. They got their evidence that it was better to be against sex and marriage. They got it from Paul, as you see here in these Confessions of Augustine. Right? So let's read that again. It says, and Augustine, he was one of their church fathers, this reflects this attitude as he quotes advice against sex and marriage from the letters of the Apostle Paul. Complete celibacy was held up. Once again, there it goes. See, I know, alhamdulillah, that Allah has given me this insight on the way the insight on these things. Was held up as the highest goal. So put that into what I showed you earlier, right? Where they said that what? That the superior condition was to stay away from marriage and intimate relations, right? The superior condition. What was the other one? That the spiritual perfection was linked to what? Sexual abstention, right? Paul says it's best to stay single. If you're married and your husband dies, it's best to stay. Don't get married again. If you're not married, it's best to stay that way. Don't look for a wife. Right? That's the better way to be. Right? Like him. It's better to do that. Like Jesus allegedly taught in Matthew. The disciples, when Jesus spoke, they realized, he said, you know what? Hey, they said it's better not to get married. And Jesus was, well, again, allegedly, let me make my words clear. He allegedly said to them, yeah, you're right. It is better, but everybody can't accept this. But it's better if they, in other words, everybody can't accept that. It's going to be hard for some people, but it's better if they do. And then he gave the example of the eunuchs, how some people were born that way. How some people were made that way. They got their member cut off. And then he said there are others who choose to be eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom, i.e. the kingdom of God. And he said then what did he say? And he said, look, it's good for those who can accept this. If you can accept that teaching that it's better to be celibate, it's better to make yourself a eunuch for the kingdom. It's good if you can do this. That's the better way. That's the better way to be, according to the alleged attribution of those words to Jesus. So as you can see, allegedly Jesus is teaching it. A so-called follower of Jesus, a top follower, Paul, he's teaching it. The church members are teaching it, right? The church fathers, the church scholars of the past and thinkers, and they're teaching it too. That's the better way to be. Now, do you really want to follow a religion like that? That's teaching you to go against the way you were created. You were created to desire that. You just have to, as we say, but see, notice how Islam says you control it through marriage. See, Islam says control it also. But Islam doesn't look down upon you if you want to get married. In fact, Islam encourages that. Right? Because through the marriage, you can now control that in a proper context. Whereas the Christianity is saying, well, you're looked down upon, as you can tell, obviously, from these teachings, that if you get married, that's looked down upon. Because you're showing you can't control yourself. Whereas the top Christians, they won't get married at all. They'll abstain from it completely. They're on a higher level than you Christians who get married. Is that what you want to follow? Do you want to forever remain in the condition of a low-level Christian? Well, I have a suggestion for you. I have a something to help you out. If you want to get closer to God and not have to shun the intimate relations with your spouse, I'm telling you, you need to come to Islam. Because Islam accepts your natural being. Islam accepts that Allah created you to desire intimacy between the man and the woman. Islam accepts that. Islam doesn't tell you to try to kill that desire. Islam just says control it and use it in its proper context of marriage. Once you're married, enjoy each other as you please, right? Enjoy your husband, enjoy your wife. Whether you want to make children or not, whether Allah is going to give you a baby or not, you can enjoy it. You can say, I want to have a baby, or you can be like, you just want to be intimate with your spouse. And it's all lawful. It's all, praise due to Allah. And you don't have to worry about being a low-level Muslim because you're being intimate. You can be amongst the high believer. You can be amongst the mu'min. You can be amongst the muhsin, right? You can be amongst the righteous of the Muslims, even though you're married. Alhamdulillah. So I invite you to Islam if you don't want to remain as a bottom Christian. Right? So, so let's continue here. It says, complete celibacy was held up as the highest goal for a Christian. And marriage was, see, there it goes. See, alhamdulillah. Again, see, I thank Allah that he has given me, the insight, man, in matters as such. Praise be to Allah. See, so I'm not making this up on my own, but this is what I garnered from my research. And alhamdulillah, the Christians are proving it. It's showing that my insight was correct. That I'm not mocking you. I'm not putting you down wrongly. I'm showing the facts. It actually, your tradition actually is this. So look, it says, and marriage was a less admirable alternative. See that? Did I just say that? Didn't I just say that? Yeah. If you get married, it's accepted, but it's as if you are on a lower level. It's as if like you're being slighted. You know what I mean? Like if you get married, it's like, okay, all right, okay, we accept it. But you're getting married because you can't control yourself. So okay, go ahead and get married, but you're not really, okay. You're an okay Christian, basically. Basically, you're like an okay Christian because if you get married. But if you want to be a better Christian, you want to be the best, then hey, don't get married, man. Don't get married, woman or man. Stay celibate. Stay single. Dedicate your entire life. And nothing wrong with dedicating your life to God. But again, Islam says you can dedicate your life to God. But within the context of marriage, you and your husband, you and your wife, y'all can be dedicated to Allah together. You can together be dedicated to Allah and enjoy each other intimately. And be romantic and still dedicate each other life to Allah. You can both together in the union of marriage get closer to Allah. But Christianity says, well, if you really want to get close to God, stay by yourself. Don't get married. Shun that desire that God created in you for intimacy. Shun that. Kill it. Try to kill that desire. And of course, we know that you can't do it, which is why they have the stories of children being molested, which is why they have the stories of nuns who have been molested by priests or vice versa or whatever. Because you can't do it. You weren't created to do that. You see? So as you see here, look what they tell you as I had surmised. And marriage was a less admirable alternative. I wonder how many Christians know this. I don't think a lot of them know this. They're not aware. I don't think a lot of them know this. Those of you who left Islam and went to Christianity, do you know this? Yeah, I'm talking to you. And I hope you hear me. You know who I'm talking to. Those of you who left Islam and you went back to the foolishness of Christianity and you trying to be a good old Christian. Do you know that if you really want to be a good Christian, you're supposed to stay celibate? How do you feel now about leaving Islam? How do you feel now about leaving Islam that at least accepted the intimate relations in its proper context? How many of you now, those of you who left Islam to go become Christians, the foolishness of Christianity. Now you trying to be a good Christian. Well, look, buddy, friend, you want to be a good Christian? You want to try to be a good Christian after you left Islam? Then try to achieve celibacy then. That's the way to be a good Christian. That's the way to be a good Christian since you call yourself leaving Islam for that foolishness. You want to be a good Christian? Then practice celibacy. That's the only way to achieve the top level of a Christian. So again, I repeat, and marriage was a less admirable alternative, suitable only, subhanAllah, suitable only for those who could not control their sexual impulses. See that? I was right. That's what that was for. For those of you who can't control yourself, you're a low level, you're a low level, you're a below average Christian. You're not even an average Christian. You're a below average Christian because you can't control yourself. So go on ahead and get married because you can't control yourself. That was for those who could not fully control their sexual impulses and therefore required a legitimate outlet for them. So in other words, go ahead. You can't control yourself. So go on ahead and get married. We'll let that be your outlet because you can't do like us top level Christians. You can't be like us better Christians who, we abstain from that. We're closer. Right? You're not. You can't control yourself. So a legitimate outlet for them, even within, and listen to this, even within marriage, sexual activity was to be reserved solely for the conception of children. There it goes again. And not to be enjoyed for its own sake. So there you go. So even if you are married, your intimacy, the intercourse relations is only for children, to have children. Don't do it because you're in the mood. Don't do it because you're feeling a little romantic. Nope. No romance for you. No sex for you. Don't do it because you're feeling romantic. Don't do it because you're in the mood. Only when you're trying to have children. That's it. That's it, Christians. And even then, you're still a low-level Christian. You still are in amongst the group who can't control yourselves. So, okay, you're going to get married because you can't control yourself. And even then, only for having children. Okay, so Augustine describes his time of promiscuity as a period of misery in which his suffering was reflective of God's gentle correction. Although at the time, Augustine was still too ignorant to understand it. And Augustine, as I said, he's one of their well-known famous church fathers and church thinkers. And that was his position on that, as well as the early church. Not just him himself, but the church in general, as I demonstrated. Okay, let's go one more and then we'll wrap it up. One more. BibleGodRules.net. God, Bible Explorer, right? Why do many early church fathers talk negatively about sex and marriage? Comparing the scriptures to the teachings of many early church fathers regarding sex and marriage, one has to conclude that these men had some influence from other than scripture. Although I would say no, it's obvious, as I had shown, that they got it from Paul. Consider some of the below quotes from a few of these early fathers and compare them to what scripture says. Saint Jerome said, "Woman is the root of all evil." Saint Jerome, 320 to 420. Do you imagine, Saint Jerome says, do you imagine that we approve of any sexual intercourse except for the procreation of children? He who is too ardent a lover of his own wife is an adulterer. Wow, that's harsh, man. That's pretty heavy. And as regards Adam and Eve, we must maintain that before the fall, they were virgins in paradise. But after they sinned and were cast out of paradise, they were immediately married. Right? They were immediately married. We Christians marry only to produce children. Right? Tertullian. Let's see. Tertullian. Do you not know that you are each an Eve? The sentence of God on this sex of yours lives in this age. The guilt must of necessity live too. You are the devil's gateway. You are the unsealer of the forbidden tree. You are the first deserter of the divine law. You are she who persuaded him whom the devil was not valiant enough to attack. You destroyed so easily God's image, man. On account of your desert, even on account of your desert, even the Son of God had to die. Wow. He's basically, I guess that's a putting down of the women, right? What is the difference whether, St. Augustine says, what is the difference whether it is in a wife or a mother? It is still Eve, the temptress, that we must beware of in any woman. I fail to see what use woman can be to man if one excludes the function of bearing children. So the woman is not good. She's not even good for the physical pleasure. She's only good for having children, according to your church fathers, as you can see from their words. So again, is it no wonder that they attacked the Prophet Muhammad and Muslims for having 4 wives, or saying that you can have your wives in paradise, right? No wonder they're so hateful of it. Again, whether they know it subconsciously or consciously, no wonder, because their Bible is or their church fathers have this hatred against women. And there are some verses in it here. Now on this site here, he tries to basically show that these church fathers were contradicting the scriptures, but as I had already shown, they got a lot of those teachings from the Bible itself, right? They got a lot of those teachings from the scriptures, from Paul, a lot of them, as I showed you. Right. So this article, this one here, tries to, show that the church fathers were against what the scriptures were showing. But no, there are scriptures that back them up. There are scriptures in Proverbs and things like that that give warnings against women and stuff. I already showed you what Paul said about staying better to stay unmarried. And if the husband dies, it's better that she not get married. Right. We showed already what they allege that Jesus said about, becoming a eunuch voluntarily. So even though he tries to say that there's some of the stuff they said is contradicting, there's still ample evidence that shows that was the thinking of the church, right? That was indeed the thinking of the church. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, the evidence is there. It is ample. So you know what I'm saying? So it's there, right? All the evidence is there for all to see that Christianity is definitely, not the way it's not the way for mankind, right? It's not because it's trying to go against the natural state that you are in as a man, as a woman. And it's also all the more clear that this is not the way that you want to follow, right? This is not the way that you want to follow. You know what I'm saying? It's there because it's just going against your nature. You weren't created to be celibate. Right? You weren't created that way. You have those desires. Yeah, right, exactly. Movement, exactly. Right, and as they said, one of their church fathers, he cut it off. Origen, I didn't know that until I did this research. I didn't know that he did. But one of their church fathers, he cut it off. He thought he was trying to get close. But you know what? Alhamdulillah, that the prophet, that we have a narration where it says the prophet spoke to some of the brothers who were trying to think that way, who thought that getting closer to Allah would be to do that. And alhamdulillah, he corrected them and said, no, that's not it. He taught them that, no, that's not it. That's not how you get closer to God, by cutting it off. That's not how you get closer to God, by trying to kill that natural desire that's in you. Yes, control it and direct it and focus it into the proper, the proper form and the proper way, but trying to kill it completely, no, that's not it. That's not it. So you Christians, you're gonna have to think about this. If you're gonna remain a Christian, then if you want to be amongst the top level Christians, then you need to follow Paul and you need to follow your alleged teachings of Jesus. If you want to be amongst the best Christians, and I assume that you would, right? I would assume that you would want to be amongst the best Christians. So to be that, it is celibacy. It is the shunning of marriage, right? If you are married, okay, and if you decide to get married, then again, you have shown that you have a lack of self-control. You're not achieving the spiritual perfection. You're not achieving the superior condition. Again, these are the words that were used from your Christian fathers and writings and such. Those are their words, right? However, if you feel that you want to get close to God, but still be able to live as a human being with your natural desires, just focused in the right direction, then I definitely invite you to Islam. Right? I definitely invite you to Islam then. Because when it comes to all these matters, when it comes to who God is, Islam has the most correct and accurate teaching about it. When it comes to these other issues, as we've dealt with, even when it comes to those other issues of self-defense and things like that, Islam still has a balanced position, right? And inshallah, maybe we can do a future show about that as well. But on all these things, Islam is giving you the balanced view of the male-female relationship, the balanced view about who God is, the balanced view of when it comes to self-defense and fighting and not fighting and refraining from fighting. It has a balanced view on all these things. So I'm saying, forget about the lies that you've heard. Forget about the propaganda that you've seen and read about or heard or whatever, and come to the truth of Islam. Again, as I addressed the Muslims, or excuse me, the people who left Islam to go to Christianity, thinking that you're going to achieve something. Unless you are going to live celibate, you're not going to achieve anything great in Christianity. Those of you who left Islam and went to Christianity, you can't. You left Islam, so you're not going to achieve anything anyway. But if you think that you're going to achieve something in Christianity, the only way you can achieve a great level in Christianity is to be celibate. And how many of you can do that? How many of you can do that? I don't think you can. We know you can't. Your priests can't do it. Your nuns can't do it. So what makes you think, you, the regular Christian who's not trying to be a priest or a nun, what makes you think you can live that way? So you might as well just come on back to the truth of Islam. Come on back to the truth of Islam. Because you went to foolishness. Once you find out that you can't really achieve any great level in Christianity unless you choose that life. And we know you can't do that, so come on back. Come on back to the truth of Islam. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Right? I'll go ahead and wrap it up right there. Right? That, you know, as I said, we gave you this series of videos, and we're going to continue more. We are on the offense now. Now it's time for you guys to start answering questions. It's time for you to start dealing with things in your religion now. You've been coming at Islam for years, right? Now we're coming at you. Now you're going to have to start answering. You're going to have to start answering these things now and have to start addressing these issues and start dealing with these issues. Exactly, AU21. Exactly, right. Because they can't live, right. They can't do it. Right? Remember when Brother Ahmadiyya years ago debated, what was the guy? Swaggart, Jimmy Swaggart. And the Swaggart guy was trying to come at the Muslims. Again, like I told you, right? They attacked this. He was attacking Islam for the more than one wife thing. And then the guy Swaggart got caught out there because he was messing with another woman other than his wife. But if he would have been Muslim, he wouldn't have had that problem. You could have had two wives, and you wouldn't have had to been out there with a prostitute, Jimmy Swaggart. Right? Right? The other one, Jim Baker. I remember the guy Jim Baker also. He was also famous too around those times with Swaggart. And he got some charges too. I think they said he was messing with Tammy Baker, his secretary or something like that. Right? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, hey. But there it is. Muhammad Zakaria. Wa alaikum salam, brother. Wa alaikum salam. So there it is. You know, so alhamdulillah. So I'm going to end it on that. Hopefully this information was useful to you. Like I said, I'll probably put some of this on the Patreon as well. Right? I'll probably put this on the Patreon as well. So if you want access to these notes, make sure you, you know, help support us on our Patreon. So don't forget, if you haven't, don't forget to like the video. Everybody who's watching right now, make sure you like the video. All right, guys and brothers and sisters, make sure you like the video. Those of you who are watching live right now, click on the likes. If you watch it later, those of you who watch this later, don't forget to click on the likes. Share it. If you aren't a subscriber, make sure you subscribe. Click the notification so whenever I do a new video, you'll be notified of the new videos. And again, support me on the Patreon, right? I'm trying to get up to 10 followers right now. Unfortunately, it looks like we dropped down to 5. I was up to 7. I don't know what happened. But I'm trying to get that 10, bro. It's a struggle, but we're trying to get that 10, man. We're trying to get that 10. Thank you, brother. I am Muhmin. Love you back, brother. Love you back. Alhamdulillah. For the fi sabilillah. Love you back. But yeah, it dropped down to 5. So I had 7. It dropped down to 5. I'm struggling to get that 10, man. SubhanAllah. I'm trying to get 10 followers, please. I mean, I don't want to be begging. You know what I mean? I don't want to be begging. But 10, please. Inshallah, help your brother get 10 followers, please. 10 supporters on Patreon. All right? We're trying to get 10 supporters on Patreon. All right? Trying to get 10 supporters on Patreon. So subscribe to the channel, like the video. Don't forget, that's important that you like the video too, brothers and sisters. That helps. So don't forget, like the video, so that way in the YouTube algorithms, you know, this will get more, it'll get seen and more people will see it and the information will spread. So don't forget to like the video, even if you watch it later. Those of you who watch the recording, make sure you like the video. Please make sure you like the video and subscribe and support the Patreon. The Patreon, again, is in the links to this video. In the description of this video, you can get to the links. All right. So you can get there. You can get there and join the Patreon from there. And like I said, in the Patreon, that's where I share my debate notes, the notes that I use in my debates, some of the notes that I use in these videos. So the information that you can use for yourself in your own discussions with your family, with your co-workers, on social media. If you want to start becoming a debater yourself, these notes can help you, inshallah, and you can become a debater as well. You know, so yeah, they're useful stuff. I'm trying to help you out. All right. All right. So I'm about to end it on that. Appreciate you, brothers and sisters, for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next show. Assalamu alaikum. May Allah bless you all.